and welcome to Two Tired Teachers. Today I'm going to give you my 2-year review of our Westinghouse iGen2200 inverter generator, the I being the inverter generator. And start with the bottom line, would I buy it again? Well, this generator is doing exactly what we bought it for, and so honestly, 2 years, I probably would go back and do my research again, make sure that this is going to be the best match for what we need. This video, I'm going to try to answer a lot of questions that we got after the 20-hour first oil change review. And so, first thing I want to say explain is why we got the generator. This is the first and only generator I've ever had. We got the generator to go with our Winnebago Micro Minnie to carry with us when we're dry camping or boondocking. And so that's how we use it for the most part. A question that we've been asked a lot is, what do we run with our generator? Well, first off, we oftentimes will plug our RV into the generator, and yes, you do need a dog bone to go from that 30 amp. This just has the 110 outlets on front. But when we do that, that's recharging the house battery on our RV. We've also run our microwave in the RV, space heaters, coffee pots. Those are the main things that we have. Fans we usually use with our solar. And I do want to say that we do have some solar, but we got this to supplement that solar. And so this last September, when we were in South Dakota, when we were in the Badlands and there's no shade, solar was all we needed. When we got to the Black Hills National Forest, and we stayed in several campgrounds there, we used our generator quite a bit. And so those are the main things. At home, I have used the generator as well, just to kind of keep exercising it some. And I've used it mainly for yard equipment, electric weed eater, hedge trimmer, things like that. And so I have used it for those kinds of things, and that's worked as well. Maintenance is something else we've had questions about. How often do you change the oil? The instructions, the manual that comes with it says you change it after the first 20 hours and then every 50 hours after that. And they do want it to have a load on it during that first 20 hours. Like I said, this is the first and only generator I've ever had, and so I called and talked to them. There's an 800 number printed on the generator. It's not just in the book, it's on the generator. And I'm asking them, what constitutes a load? And so basically I've come down to a space heater is a real good way to exercise a generator. Now, something this generator does not have is an hour meter. So let me show you what I use. And by the way, if you're like me and you really didn't know what's the hour meter for, what's the significance, bottom line, it's kind of like the odometer in your car. It lets you know when it's time for an oil change. Well, this is my solution. I got this little book, and when I got it home, I simply put in here the make of the generator, when I purchased it, where I purchased it, the serial number, and then after that, I simply have a date and how long the generator was run, whether it's and I do it in quarter of an hour, so a 0.25, a 0.5, 0.75, an hour, or 2.75, whatever it may be. Kind of keep a running total over here. And then I can also say, well, I was at 18 hours, but I went on and did my 20-hour oil change because I knew we were getting ready to head to the Natchez Trace. We were going to be using the generator a whole lot more than 2 hours, so I went on and changed the oil. And so what I have found is I'm going to change the oil before a long trip where I'm depending on this, because I want to change the oil when I'm at home, where it's simple and it's easy and I have everything I need right at my fingertips. I'm not having to try and dispose of oil while I'm out somewhere in a town or a campground and then try to drive into a town and find somewhere. So I just go on and do that while I'm at home. And so just keeping this little logbook, our 50 then the next oil change, I did it 40 hours. Well, I did that because we were heading to South Dakota where we were going to do a lot of dry camping. And so I knew that I was going to use this more than 10 hours. So that hour meter has really, I've never had one, so I didn't miss it. I guess that's the way to put it. If that's going to be something that's going to bother you, then yeah, you certainly may want to get one that has that, or you can install them later from what I understand. But that's the oil change. Something I started doing last summer, and that is when we were not traveling, we're not using it, I would get the generator out and start it at least once every 2 weeks, let it run for at least 30 minutes or so. And once again, using some yard tools, or that's usually what I was doing during the summer. And if bad comes to worse, just plug a space heater in it, turn it on low, turn it on high, and exercise the generator. This last year when we were getting ready to shut it down for the season, and by the way, you know, we live in Texas, and so January and February are about the only months we don't travel. This is March 2nd, and we got here yesterday. We traveled middle of December, was our last trip in the fall. But what I did was, I had used the gasoline down. It still had some in there. I couldn't tell exactly how much, but I got a can of sea foam. I'm not saying this is a solution. I'm just saying I'd seen someone else do this. Put it in there, let it run for 30 minutes or so to make sure that all of that had gotten circulated into the engine. Honestly, then when I got ready to start it up again this year, it did not start up. But it wasn't the problem with the motor. The problem was a spark plug. And you may be saying, well, we had just under 100 hours. So you may be thinking, that's way too fast for a spark plug to go out. Well, not really. When you look at this and you see, I have a number of times where we were under an hour, a number that are 2 hours. The longest one, there's hour and a half, 2 hours, 3.5 hours. Several that were 4 hours, and then we had one day where it snowed and we used it a total of 7 hours. That was not a 7-hour stretch. We did run it for like a couple hours, let it rest for a little bit, run it some more, let it rest. But we have just under 100 hours at this point. Changing the spark plug was no big deal, but that brings up something I want to tell you. If you choose to get this generator, it will come with a funnel, and this funnel actually is shaped to go in with the oil change, and you can watch that first review to see how that oil change was done. I have hung on to this little bottle because this was the pre-measured amount of oil that came with the generator. When I do an oil change, I put the fresh oil in here, and then I know how much oil it's going to take. I don't have, you know, I'm not constantly worried about, is it going to overflow? What I had forgotten that they had sent with it until I started trying to do it was this comes to change the spark plug, and you really need that. I'll show you where the little place is on top. You take that out, and the spark plug is way on down there. And you simply take this tool, once you get the little boot off, put this tool in there, and you could do this part with a screwdriver, but it came with the little thing here, and then twist it, take out the old spark plug. And what I found when I took it out was, yeah, it looked like it needed to be changed. And as soon as I changed it, then it fired up. So that's maintenance. Like I said, the other thing I do so far as running the generator, in our town at Walmart, they have an ethanol-free pump. And so I have been running ethanol-free gas in it. And even though it's ethanol free, I go in and put stabilizer in there. And then as I'm putting the oil in here, I go in and put, the gas in here, I go in and put a little bit of the Marvel's Mystery Oil to help keep that engine running clean and keep it going right. So those are a couple of things that I do. Some of you may say, that's ridiculous, I shouldn't be doing it, but that's what I'm doing. And like I said, after 2 years, it's still doing what I need it to do. We've had a number of questions asking about how long does it go on a tank of gas. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's not something that's really important to me. We have a 2-gallon gas can that we carry and a 2.5-gallon. And so what I decided to do was just to, it worked out kind of nice on this last trip to South Dakota. I ballparked it and we ran the generator right at 30 hours. That's the ballpark we ran the generator. And we used the ballpark of 3 gallons of gas. So our average, I would say, is around 10 hours per gallon. Like I said, I've never really clocked it. That's not something that matters to me. How much of a draw you're pulling on it, that is all going to affect and fluctuate how long it goes. But we have been asked that question, and that's the closest answer I can give you. Your results may vary, but that is, like I said, a question that we've been asked a number of times. Okay, and then I want to say some things that, like I said, this third time I'm saying it, so hopefully people will understand. This is the only generator I've ever had. What I'm going to tell you, I don't know if it's something that's unique to this generator or if this is something with all generators. First thing I want to say is cranking this generator. It should, in my mind, if it's cranked, it should be cranked. It shouldn't matter. But you have to crank going straight up. It cranks so much better and faster. I'm not saying you can't if it's at an angle, but going straight up. And when we were traveling with the truck, that was something that was really, I wanted to be able to leave the generator in the bed of the truck, facing out so that, you know, the exhaust is coming out. But that meant I had to get in the bed of the truck to be able to pull up instead of out. And so, like I said, to me it doesn't make a lot of sense that it has to be cranked straight up, but it cranks, and it cranks consistently if it's being pulled straight up. When it first starts up, you put it, like, there are 3 steps to starting it. You vent the gas, you move it to choke, and you pull the crank straight up. And for me, it usually takes 3 pulls. Don't know what the deal is there, but that's just a pretty consistent thing. I can figure it's going to be the 3rd pull it will crank up. Sometimes it's, if I've been using it regularly, the 2nd crank. But usually for me, it's not the 1st. I don't have as much upper body strength as a lot of people, I'm sure, but it does crank up. It takes it a little bit to warm up. If I crank it and go immediately from, okay, the green light's on, I'm going from choke to run, it very well may bottom out and stop. So just give it a minute or 2 to go on and start running. And honestly, with the load, I have found that if I gradually increase the load, it helps. And what I mean by that is, if I plug the RV into it but don't have anything plugged in or running, just that charging of the house batteries, you're going to hear it kind of and then run back up to where you know that it's now pulling a load. Let it run at that load before you try to put anything else on it. At home, when I'm just exercising the generator, if I plug a space heater in it, I'm going to turn it on low first and then turn it up to high, and you'll hear it rev up. And that, like I said, it just takes a little bit to get there. Overall, I've been very pleased with it. The exhaust, yes, it's an exhaust. It does get hot, but honestly, when it's running, it's not. If I put a water bottle right here, an empty water bottle, yeah, it's going to melt that plastic. But if I put that empty water bottle here, I don't think it will. So it's not running as hot as a lot of them. For a generator, it's quiet. It is a generator. You can hear it. But we have been standing across from each other with the generator between us, and we can carry on a conversation without screaming at each other. So compared to open box generators, it's wonderful. Last thing, we have had people ask us, have we run the air conditioner with it? When we first got it, we had put the Easy Start in the air conditioner, and I went out and tried it, and it ran for an hour, had the air conditioner running for an hour. That's really not something we got the generator for, and it's not something we're really going to be trying to use the generator for, because if we're traveling in the South in the summer, we're going to have electric hookups. And so the answer to that question is, yeah, when it was brand new, we did that. I've not really run the air conditioner on it since then, because that's not something we're going to be using it for. Like I said, we did use it when it snowed, when we didn't know it was going to be snowing, and we used this to run a space heater some, and then when the furnace is running, that runs off the batteries up front, so this charged those batteries back up, and it did a great job. So that's my 2-year review, impressions, etc. of the iGen2200. One last thing I want to say. If you go back and read the comments on the 20-hour review, you'll see that there was a really negative comment, and our reply to the guy who got one said it wouldn't crank, it wouldn't start, etc. I don't know if he hadn't put it on choke. I don't know what the problem was, but I want to tell you, if you get one of these and you have a problem, there's an 800 number for Westinghouse, and like I said, when we first got it, I called them a couple of times, got to talk to an actual person, and if you're having issues or problems, we've not. Those were just questions because I had never had a generator before and there were things I didn't know. It wasn't that I had a problem with it. I just didn't know. What do you consider a load? That was a question I had. You can call them and talk to them. And I was very pleased with the fact that they didn't laugh at my questions, things like that. So anyway, that's everything I know about this generator. There's nothing else to tell. And so, doing what I bought it to do, I couldn't ask for, that I am pleased, I'm satisfied, and looking forward to doing some more dry camping and getting it to have some more use. Hope you've enjoyed my look at 2-year review of our Westinghouse iGen2200 generator. And as always, thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.